The sun had just started to peek through the thin curtains of a small, modest home in the city. A girl was already awake, tying her hair back neatly, getting ready for school. She lived with her mother, who worked tirelessly as a maid in a wealthy household, and her younger brother, who was still rubbing sleep from his eyes. The house was small, with worn-out furniture, but it was filled with warmth and the kind of laughter that made even the hardest days feel lighter. The girl, who always carried a spark of kindness in her heart, carefully packed her bag with books and a small lunch her mother had made for her. She didn't have fancy clothes or expensive shoes like many of the other students, but she had a smile that could brighten anyone's day. She kissed her mother softly on the cheek before heading out, waving to her little brother as he stumbled after her in his sleepy days. Walking to school, she passed familiar shops, street vendors calling out their daily specials, and children running around on their way to their own schools. She loved this walk because it allowed her a few moments to think, to enjoy the sounds of the city, and sometimes to help someone in need. Today, though, she didn't realize how much her life was about to change in just a few hours. School was bustling with energy when she arrived. Students chatted, teachers hurried to get everything ready for the day, and the playground was filled with children running and playing. She waved to a few friends she had made over the years, exchanging greetings and small smiles, but she noticed something unusual near the swings. A boy, sitting alone on the edge of the playground, looked troubled. He wasn't playing or laughing with the others. There was a quietness about him that stood out amidst all the noise. She kept walking toward her classroom but couldn't shake the feeling that she should check on him. Just as she was about to pass, she heard a sudden cry and a loud thud. Turning quickly, she saw that the boy had tripped and fallen, hitting his knee on the hard ground. Blood was trickling down and he was trying to hold back tears. The playground, full of children, seemed to pause for a moment as everyone stared, unsure of what to do. Without thinking twice, she ran over to him. "Are you okay?" she asked gently, kneeling beside him. The boy winced in pain but managed to nod, though it was clear he was hurt badly. She didn't panic. She had helped her younger brother many times when he scraped his knees or elbows. She took off a small handkerchief from her bag and dabbed at the blood carefully, speaking softly to keep him calm. "Don't worry, it's okay. I'll help you," she said. Her voice had a comforting tone that made the boy relax a little. He looked up at her, and for the first time since the fall, a small flicker of trust appeared in his eyes. She helped him sit more comfortably on the grass and noticed that his ankle looked twisted, though he didn't seem to want to move it. Teachers were starting to come over, their voices sharp with concern, but she stayed with him, holding his hand lightly to give him reassurance. "It's going to be okay. Someone will help you get to the nurse," she said. The boy nodded again, swallowing hard as he tried to hide his pain. As the nurse arrived, she guided the boy carefully toward the clinic, helping him take small steps. She kept talking in a calm, friendly manner, distracting him from the pain. "You know, it could have been much worse, but you're strong," she said, smiling at him. The boy's eyes softened, and a faint smile appeared on his face. She felt a small relief knowing she had made a difference. After the boy was safely in the nurse's care, she stood outside for a moment, catching her breath. Her hands were slightly dirty from helping him, and her knees were grass-stained, but she didn't mind. She had helped someone, and that feeling of knowing she had made a difference was enough for her. She didn't ask for thanks or attention. It was simply the right thing to do. Throughout the rest of the morning, she couldn't help but glance at the boy whenever she passed the clinic. He seemed quiet but calmer, sitting up in the nurse's room with a blanket around his shoulders. She wondered about him, who he was, and why he had been sitting alone. There was something intriguing about him, though she didn't know why. At lunch, she sat with her usual group of friends, but her mind kept wandering back to the injured boy. She thought about how often people judged others by what they had or how they looked, but here was someone who seemed lonely despite having everything. She realized that helping others didn't depend on knowing their background or status. It was about seeing someone in need and acting with kindness. The rest of the school day passed with classes, lessons, and the usual chatter, but the memory of that moment stayed with her. Helping him had made her feel more alive, more connected to the world around her. Little did she know, this small act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. That boy was not an ordinary student. He came from a world of wealth, influence, and power, and yet, in that moment, he was just a child in pain. As the final bell rang and students hurried home, she walked the familiar path back to her modest house, thinking about the day. She didn't realize it yet, but her simple act of helping an injured boy had been noticed, and it would not be forgotten. She thought about her mother, who had always taught her to be kind and to help without expecting anything in return. Today she had lived those lessons and it felt good. By the time she reached home, the evening sun was casting a golden glow over the city. She found her mother in the kitchen, preparing dinner as usual. She smiled at her mother and recounted parts of her day, careful not to make a big deal about helping the boy. Her mother listened, proud of her daughter's compassion and gentle nature. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about the boy again. Who was he? Why had he been sitting alone? She felt a quiet curiosity but also a sense of satisfaction that she had done the right thing. She drifted off to sleep, unaware that the boy she had helped was someone extraordinary, someone whose life and her own life were about to intersect in ways she could never imagine. The seed of a story that would unfold over time had been planted, and it all began with a simple, selfless act on a sunny morning at school. The next morning arrived with the usual sounds of the city. Distant horns, the chatter of people starting their day, and the faint clatter of dishes from small street cafes. The girl woke up early, as she always did, preparing herself for school while her mother quietly moved around the small kitchen. She felt a lingering curiosity about the boy from yesterday, wondering if he was okay, and if he had managed to go through the day without too much pain. She couldn't stop thinking about his quiet eyes and the way he had seemed alone even among so many students. As she walked to school, she kept her mind occupied with thoughts about helping others. She wondered how many people needed a kind word, a helping hand, or even just a smile to feel better. Life hadn't been easy for her or her family, but she had learned from a young age that small acts of kindness often mattered more than grand gestures. When she arrived at the school gate, she noticed the usual crowd of children rushing in, some laughing, some complaining about homework, and some arguing about trivial things. Yet her eyes immediately searched for the boy, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. He was there, sitting quietly on a bench under a tree, his books in front of him, and a small backpack by his side. He seemed different today, less withdrawn, perhaps because of her help yesterday. As she approached, he looked up and gave a faint nod. She smiled back gently and took a seat on the other end of the bench, keeping a respectful distance. She didn't want to make him uncomfortable but wanted him to know she cared. Throughout the morning, she kept an eye on him from afar. She noticed the subtle ways he interacted with others. Unlike some children who were confident and outspoken, he was careful with his words, observing before speaking. When a few students teased him about a small mistake he made during class, she felt a protective surge but reminded herself to act thoughtfully. Instead of confronting the children, she approached the boy later, handing him a small note with encouraging words. "You are brave and kind. Don't let anyone make you feel small." The boy glanced at the note, and a small, grateful smile appeared. It was a quiet moment, but it meant a lot. He had experienced many things that day that reminded him that the world could be both harsh and kind at the same time. She had offered kindness without expecting anything in return, and that simple gesture left a lasting impact. As the school day continued, there was a minor commotion in the playground. One of the younger students had fallen from the climbing frame, scraping his arm. The girl immediately rushed to help, showing the same calm, caring attitude she had shown to the boy the day before. She guided the younger child to the nurse, keeping him calm and distracted with small jokes and light conversation. Teachers and staff noticed her ability to remain composed under pressure, and some whispered among themselves about how mature and thoughtful she was for her age. Meanwhile, the boy watched her quietly from a distance. He had spent much of his life surrounded by people who often judged him or treated him differently because of his wealth and family status. Seeing someone help another without any intention of recognition or reward was unusual for him. He felt a curiosity growing inside, a desire to understand why she was different, why she cared so naturally and without hesitation. During lunch, she sat in the courtyard with a few classmates, but she couldn't help glancing toward the boy, who was sitting alone with his own lunch. A part of her wanted to join him, but she hesitated, wondering if it would be awkward or if he would even want her company. Before she could decide, he walked over slowly and asked if he could sit beside her. She nodded with a smile, scooting over to make space. It was a small moment, but it carried a quiet significance for both of them. They ate in silence at first, each lost in their own thoughts. Then he spoke softly, asking about her family, her school, and her daily life. She answered honestly, without embellishment, sharing stories of her mother's hard work and her brother's funny antics. He listened intently, genuinely interested in what she had to say. For the first time in a long while, he felt that someone saw him as a person, not as the son of a powerful, wealthy family. After lunch, the school announced an art competition. The boy hesitated at first, unsure if he wanted to participate, but she encouraged him gently. "It's just for fun. Don't worry about winning," she said. He nodded and decided to try. Throughout the afternoon, they worked quietly side by side, sketching ideas and sharing materials. She noticed his attention to detail, the care he put into each stroke, and she admired his talent. He, in turn, appreciated her encouragement and her ability to notice the little things he was proud of. By the end of the school day, a small bond had formed between them. They had shared moments of care, laughter, and understanding that went beyond social status, wealth, or appearances. The girl walked home feeling a quiet satisfaction, knowing she had been kind and made a difference in someone's day. She didn't yet know how extraordinary the boy was, but she knew that he had left an impression on her as well. As she reached home, she found her mother waiting with a warm smile and a simple meal prepared. She shared snippets of her day, careful to mention the boy only in passing, not wanting to make him seem special in a way that might embarrass him. Her mother listened with pride, noting how her daughter's heart was always open to others and how naturally she cared for people, regardless of who they were. Later that evening, as she did her homework, her thoughts drifted back to the boy and the way he had started to open up to her. She wondered about his life, the world he came from, and why he seemed so different from other students. She didn't yet know that he was the son of a billionaire, that his life was filled with pressures and expectations far beyond what most people could imagine. All she knew was that he had needed help, and she had been there to provide it without hesitation. The boy, in his own world, reflected on the girl's kindness as well. He had met many people who only cared about his wealth or status, but she was different. She didn't treat him as someone above others. She treated him as a person. That realization stayed with him, quietly forming the beginning of trust and a rare, genuine friendship. By the time night fell, both of them were back in their separate homes, yet a silent connection had been established. Small gestures, shared moments, and acts of kindness had woven a bond that neither fully understood yet. Little did they know, this connection would grow into something significant, shaping their lives in unexpected ways. That day at school had started like any other, but it ended with a quiet shift, a subtle bridge between two worlds that were about to collide, all because of simple human kindness and the courage to help someone in need. The morning sun filtered softly through the thin curtains, casting a warm glow over the modest room where the girl was getting ready for school. She moved quietly, careful not to wake her younger brother who was still asleep. Her thoughts, however, were restless. She couldn't stop thinking about the boy she had helped over the past 2 days. His quiet presence and grateful smile had left a mark on her heart, and she wondered how he was doing now. As she finished tying her hair and slipped on her shoes, she felt a mixture of curiosity and excitement, unaware that today would bring a surprising discovery. Walking through the familiar streets, she passed small shops and street vendors, greeting them as she usually did. Today, though, she noticed something different. There was a subtle tension in the air, a kind of quiet whispering among people she didn't even know. She shook her head and focused on getting to school, determined not to let anything distract her from the day ahead. As she approached the school gate, her eyes immediately sought the boy, hoping to see him again. He was already there, sitting on the same bench under the tree as yesterday, his posture slightly stiff but calm. When he saw her, he gave a small nod and a tentative smile. She smiled back warmly, walking over to take a seat nearby. They exchanged a few quiet words, asking each other about homework and teachers. But there was a subtle weight in the boy's eyes that made her pause. She sensed that there was more to him than met the eye, though she had no idea what it could be. Classes passed by as usual, but she noticed the boy's reserved nature. He didn't speak much in class, and when called upon, he answered politely but quietly. Some students whispered about him, speculating on why he always seemed distant and alone. She listened quietly to these rumors but chose not to let them influence her. She had seen enough of people being judged unfairly, and she wanted to give him a chance without the weight of others' opinions. During a short break, she decided to approach him. "Do you want to walk with me to the library?" she asked softly. He hesitated, then nodded, standing carefully to avoid putting pressure on his injured knee from a few days ago. As they walked side by side, he seemed to relax slightly, the walls he had built around himself beginning to show cracks. She asked him about his favorite books and hobbies, genuinely interested in his answers. He spoke cautiously at first, then gradually opened up, revealing a love for drawing and reading stories about adventures and faraway places. She listened attentively, impressed by his intelligence and thoughtful nature. Later, as they returned from the library, they noticed a small commotion near the school entrance. A teacher was speaking to someone, and the boy's attention was caught immediately. Curious, she looked in the same direction and noticed a well-dressed man in a crisp suit speaking to the teacher. The boy's expression changed subtly, a mixture of respect and nervousness, though he tried to hide it. She didn't understand why he reacted that way, but she didn't press him. There was something about the man that seemed important, and she sensed that it was connected to the boy in a significant way. After classes ended, she walked home slowly, reflecting on the day. She remembered how the boy had seemed different during their library visit. More relaxed, more willing to share his thoughts. She wondered what it would be like to live in his world, a world so separate from hers, filled with privileges and expectations she could barely imagine. Still, she didn't feel intimidated or envious. She felt a growing respect for his character and a quiet admiration for his resilience. As she approached her small home, she saw her mother waiting outside, finishing up chores before the evening meal. She greeted her warmly, recounting some small events of her day, careful to mention her new friend only in passing. Her mother listened, nodding with pride, as always encouraging her daughter to continue showing kindness and empathy toward others. They shared a simple meal together, and the girl went to bed early, still thinking about the boy and the subtle changes she had noticed in him. The next day at school brought an unexpected discovery. She was in the library, helping a younger student find a book, when she overheard a conversation between two school staff members. They were speaking in hushed tones, clearly discussing something important. Curiosity piqued. She listened carefully without drawing attention to herself. Words like family, billionaire, and influence floated through the conversation. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized that they were speaking about the boy she had been helping. She struggled to comprehend what she had just heard. Could it be true? Was he really from a wealthy and powerful family? She didn't let her thoughts show on her face and quickly returned to her tasks, trying to calm the rush of emotions inside her. Her mind was spinning. Everything about the boy made sense now. His quiet demeanor, the careful way he spoke, the subtle signs of privilege she hadn't noticed before. Yet, despite all of this, she realized something important. His wealth and status didn't change who he was in the moments she had spent with him. He was still the same boy who needed help and who had shown appreciation for simple acts of kindness. Later, during a break, she approached him cautiously. "Can I ask you something?" she said softly. He looked at her, a mixture of curiosity and caution in his eyes. She hesitated for a moment, then continued, "Are your parents very important people?" The boy's expression changed slightly, and he nodded, confirming her suspicions. She didn't react with surprise or envy. Instead, she smiled gently. "I see. That's all I wanted to know," she said. He looked at her, a little relieved that she didn't treat him differently, and nodded appreciatively. From that day on, their interactions took on a new depth. She understood the pressures and expectations he faced, and he appreciated her for seeing him as a person rather than a title or a family name. They continued to spend time together during breaks, sharing stories, helping each other with schoolwork, and quietly supporting one another. She never let his wealth intimidate her, and he never let his status change how he treated her. It was a rare connection built on genuine respect and trust, and it grew stronger with each passing day. One afternoon, while walking home from school together, the boy hesitated and then spoke softly. "Thank you for helping me the other day. Not many people would do what you did." She smiled, shaking her head. "I didn't do it for thanks. I just wanted to help. That's all." He nodded thoughtfully, realizing that her kindness was sincere and unselfish. The moment was simple but significant, a quiet recognition of mutual respect and understanding. That evening, back at home, she shared some of her experiences with her mother, careful to avoid mentioning too much about his family. Her mother listened with a warm smile, proud of her daughter's compassion and the maturity she was showing in handling this unique friendship. The girl went to bed that night feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment. She had discovered something extraordinary, not about wealth or status, but about the power of kindness, understanding, and genuine connection between two people from very different worlds. Days turned into weeks, and their friendship continued to grow. She learned more about his interests, his dreams, and the challenges he faced, while he discovered the strength, courage, and empathy she possessed. They became a team of sorts, helping each other navigate school life, solve small problems, and share moments of laughter and encouragement. Each day, they built a bridge between their two worlds, founded not on material wealth but on trust, respect, and the simple beauty of human kindness. She had never imagined that a small act of helping an injured boy could lead to such an incredible connection. It was a reminder that the world was full of surprises, and that genuine care for others often returned in ways one could never expect. She didn't know what the future held, but she felt certain that this friendship would shape both of their lives, teaching them lessons about empathy, courage, and the importance of seeing people for who they truly were, beyond appearances and wealth. The next morning, the girl woke up earlier than usual. Her thoughts were busy, filled with the boy's face, the quiet smile he had given her the day before, and the new understanding of his world. She felt both curiosity and a gentle sense of responsibility, as if she wanted to continue being someone he could trust and rely on. After a simple breakfast with her mother and younger brother, she set off for school, her bag swinging lightly at her side and a feeling of quiet anticipation in her heart. At school, the usual rush of students filled the courtyard. Children laughed, chased one another, and called out names. She walked toward the familiar bench under the tree where the boy often sat, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. He was already there, looking a little anxious, as if waiting for her. When he saw her, his eyes lit up briefly, and he gave a small, nervous wave. She smiled back warmly, walking over to sit beside him. The morning lessons passed slowly, with her thoughts drifting to the boy from time to time. She noticed the subtle way he interacted with the teachers, polite but careful, as if always aware of the expectations around him. She thought about the differences between their lives, his filled with privileges and rules, hers filled with small challenges and responsibilities. But she realized that their friendship was not about those differences. It was about trust, understanding, and shared moments of kindness. During break, they decided to walk around the small garden near the school. The boy seemed hesitant at first, but she spoke gently, encouraging him to relax. They talked about schoolwork, their favorite subjects, and their dreams for the future. He shared bits of his life, carefully choosing words that would not reveal too much about his family, and she listened with quiet attention, asking thoughtful questions and offering gentle encouragement. Later, while passing by the school office, they noticed a teacher speaking to a well-dressed woman in an elegant outfit. The woman was asking questions, her tone polite but firm. The boy's expression changed immediately. He stiffened, his eyes alert. She could sense that this woman held authority and that he respected her deeply. He whispered to her, "That's my mother." The revelation surprised her, but she didn't let her expression show it. She realized just how different his life was from hers, yet she also felt that her friendship with him had a unique value precisely because it existed outside of wealth or status. As the day continued, she noticed small changes in him. He was more open to speaking with others, more willing to participate in activities, and more confident in expressing his opinions. She realized that her simple gestures of kindness and the attention she had given him had made a significant impact. They were building a small bubble of understanding and friendship within the larger, more complicated world around them. During lunch, they sat together, sharing a quiet conversation while the other students ate around them. He asked her questions about her family, her dreams, and the small joys of her everyday life. She spoke freely, describing the modest home she lived in, the hard work her mother did, and the playful antics of her little brother. He listened, genuinely interested, occasionally nodding or smiling in response. The warmth of his attention made her feel valued, and she realized that he too was finding comfort in the simplicity and honesty of her life. After lunch, the school announced a small event where students could participate in storytelling. The boy hesitated, unsure if he wanted to be involved, but she encouraged him softly. "It's just for fun," she said. "No one is judging you. Just share your story." He took a deep breath and agreed, and together they practiced quietly in a corner of the playground. She offered tips and encouragement, helping him feel confident and prepared. When it was time to present, he spoke clearly, sharing his story with subtle humor and insight. She watched from nearby, feeling a swell of pride at his courage. After the event, they returned to their bench under the tree. He seemed more relaxed than he had all week, and she realized that the small moments of encouragement, attention, and care had given him a sense of normalcy he rarely experienced. They talked quietly about life, dreams, and the little challenges they faced each day. She learned more about his interests, his favorite books, and his love for sketching landscapes. He learned about her resilience, her kindness, and her thoughtful approach to helping others. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, they walked home together for the first time. The streets were busy, but the girl felt a sense of calm and focus, keeping an eye out for any obstacles that might make the boy uncomfortable. He seemed quieter than usual, his mind occupied with thoughts, but he occasionally glanced at her and smiled softly. They walked side by side, sharing small jokes and observations about their day. At one point, they passed a small street market. She paused to admire a handmade bracelet, and he noticed her interest. He insisted she pick it up, saying it would look nice on her. She shook her head, politely declining, but he smiled and handed it to her anyway. She accepted it reluctantly, feeling a small warmth in her chest. It was a simple gesture, but it carried significance, showing that even in his world of wealth and expectation, he valued small acts of generosity and human connection. That evening, as she returned home, she shared the events of the day with her mother, carefully leaving out details that might draw attention to the boy's family. Her mother listened attentively, proud of her daughter's patience, empathy, and ability to connect with others. The girl felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had made a difference in someone's life and that their bond was growing stronger. The boy, back in his own home, reflected on the day as well. He realized that her friendship had brought a sense of normalcy and happiness he hadn't felt in a long time. Her kindness, humility, and genuine interest in him as a person had shown him a side of life he rarely experienced. He felt gratitude and a quiet admiration for her, understanding that their friendship was rare and precious. Over the next few days, their connection deepened further. They spent time helping each other with schoolwork, discussing dreams for the future, and supporting each other through small challenges. She encouraged him to explore his interests without fear of judgment, and he, in turn, respected her perspective, appreciating her resilience and ability to find joy in simple moments. Their friendship was becoming a bridge between two worlds, one of simplicity and struggle, the other of wealth and expectation, built entirely on trust, understanding, and human connection. One afternoon, as they sat under the tree, he turned to her with a thoughtful expression. You know, most people don't see me for who I am. They only see what I have or who my family is. But you treat me like a person." She smiled softly, feeling a quiet satisfaction. "That's because you are a person," she said simply. "Not your family, not your wealth. Just you." He nodded, a small smile forming on his lips, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about the journey of the past few days. A simple act of kindness, helping him when he was hurt, had grown into something extraordinary. It had brought trust, friendship, and a sense of connection that neither of them had expected. She understood now that genuine care for others could create ripples far beyond the moment itself. She didn't know what the future would hold, but she felt certain that their friendship would continue to grow, shaping both of their lives in ways they could not yet imagine. In that quiet reflection, she drifted off to sleep, feeling grateful for the unexpected, wonderful bond that had formed between her and the boy, a bond that proved the power of kindness and the beauty of seeing people for who they truly are. The morning light filtered gently into her small room, and she awoke with a sense of anticipation. She had come to care deeply about the boy, and today felt like another ordinary day that could carry the quiet magic of unexpected surprises. She quickly dressed, packed her bag, and helped her younger brother prepare for school before stepping out into the familiar streets. The city hummed with its usual activity. Street vendors called out their wares, children laughed on their way to school, and the air was alive with the simple rhythm of daily life. As she arrived at school, her eyes immediately sought the boy. He was already waiting by the bench under the tree, his posture relaxed but his gaze searching. When he saw her, a small, genuine smile appeared on his face, and he waved. She walked over and sat beside him, feeling a comforting warmth in his presence. There was a quiet understanding between them now, a bond that had grown over days of shared experiences, small conversations, and acts of kindness. The morning classes passed by in a blur of lessons, notes, and occasional glances toward the boy. She noticed his attentiveness, how he listened carefully and responded thoughtfully, and she felt proud that their interactions had encouraged him to express himself more confidently. During the break, they walked together toward the small school garden, sharing light-hearted chatter. She asked about his hobbies, and he spoke with enthusiasm about his sketches, his favorite books, and the dreams he held quietly close to his heart. She listened intently, appreciating the depth and thoughtfulness behind his words. Later, the school announced a small charity project where students could participate in helping the local community. The girl's heart lifted. She immediately thought of joining and invited the boy to help as well. He hesitated at first, unsure of what to expect, but she gently encouraged him, emphasizing that it was not about recognition or reward, but about making a difference. Slowly, he agreed, and together they worked on small tasks, organizing supplies, planting flowers, and distributing food to those in need. Throughout the activity, she noticed his careful attention to detail, his willingness to listen, and his quiet but genuine kindness. She realized that the boy's wealth or status had no bearing on his character. What mattered was his heart. As the day continued, the boy's family became aware of the girl's kindness and selflessness. They had heard stories from school staff about how she had assisted him when he was injured and how she continued to show patience, empathy, and care. The boy's parent, impressed by her sincerity, requested to meet her family. The girl was nervous, unsure of how to behave around people so different from her own world. Her mother reassured her gently, reminding her that she had always acted with honesty and integrity, and that was enough. When the meeting finally occurred, the boy's parent greeted her warmly, acknowledging the courage, humility, and kindness she had shown. They spoke kindly, appreciating her selflessness and the genuine concern she had demonstrated without expecting anything in return. She felt both nervous and proud, realizing that her small, everyday acts of kindness had been noticed and respected by people she had never imagined she would meet. In the days that followed, the girl's life began to shift subtly but meaningfully. The boy continued to spend time with her at school, their bond growing stronger with each shared experience. They helped each other with schoolwork, exchanged stories about their families, and encouraged one another to pursue their dreams. The boy's confidence blossomed, and he began to participate more in school activities, inspired by the encouragement and friendship she provided. She, in turn, felt a quiet pride in seeing his growth and happiness, understanding that their connection had become a source of strength for both of them. One afternoon, as they walked home together, the boy turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "You know, not many people have seen me the way you do. Most care only about what my family has or what I might inherit. But you see me for who I am." She smiled softly, shaking her head. "I only see you for who you are," she replied simply. "Not your family, not your wealth. Just you." He nodded, a small smile forming on his lips, and for a moment, the bustling city around them seemed to fade away. It was a quiet, meaningful recognition of the bond they had built, a connection that transcended social status or expectation. Had started it all. As the weeks passed, the girl and the boy continued to navigate the school year together. They participated in various activities, celebrated small successes, and supported each other through challenges. Their friendship became a bridge between two worlds, one filled with simplicity, challenges, and everyday joys, the other filled with privilege, expectation, and responsibility. Yet, neither allowed the differences to overshadow the genuine connection they shared. The boy's family, inspired by her character, quietly provided opportunities for her and her family to experience new possibilities. Scholarships, mentorship, and small gestures of support began to open doors that had previously seemed out of reach. She remained humble, never letting these changes alter her personality or her approach to life. Her focus remained on kindness, empathy, and the joy of helping others, qualities that had first drawn the boy to her. One evening, as she returned home from school, she found a small gift waiting for her at the door. A simple book on art, her favorite subject, with a note from the boy. It read, "For all the stories you've shared and the kindness you've shown. Thank you for being you." She held the book close, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried a profound meaning. It was a reminder that genuine friendship and acts of kindness were often recognized in ways that didn't require grandeur or wealth. The boy, in his own home, reflected on how much her presence had changed his daily life. He had learned to trust, to appreciate simple acts of care, and to see the world through a lens of empathy rather than expectation. He realized that her friendship had provided a sense of balance and normalcy in a life that often felt demanding and isolating. Their bond was rare, precious, and built on mutual respect and understanding. As the school year moved forward, both of them continued to grow individually while nurturing their friendship. The girl's confidence and sense of purpose were strengthened by the opportunities she had received and the recognition of her character, while the boy's confidence and openness flourished thanks to her encouragement and genuine care. Together, they navigated the complexities of school, friendships, and personal growth, learning valuable lessons about empathy, resilience, and the quiet power of human kindness. On a warm afternoon, they sat together under the familiar tree, sharing stories about their families, dreams, and experiences. The boy turned to her, his eyes reflecting gratitude and warmth. "I'm really glad I met you," he said softly. She smiled, feeling the same. "Me too. You've taught me a lot too, about courage, patience, and kindness." They sat in comfortable silence, appreciating the depth of their connection and the quiet joy it brought. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the city, she realized that this friendship had transformed her life in ways she could never have anticipated. A simple act of helping an injured boy had grown into a meaningful relationship, teaching lessons about empathy, humility, and the beauty of seeing people for who they truly are. She felt grateful for the bond they shared, knowing that it would continue to shape both of their lives in profound and lasting ways. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about how a single act of kindness had set in motion a chain of events that touched not only her life but the boys and even the people around them. It was a reminder that genuine care, humility, and compassion could bridge worlds, break down barriers, and create opportunities that might otherwise remain closed. She drifted off to sleep with a sense of peace, knowing that the future held promise, friendship, and the quiet power of kindness that